Bright Star by John Keats is believed to have been written around 1818 or 1819, although it wasn't until 1838, some 17 years after his death, that it was finally published in the Plymouth and Devonport Weekly Journal. The poem was probably inspired by what was to ultimately be his doomed love for Fanny Brawne, a young girl whom he had met in 1818 when she was his neighbour in Hampstead, and this has led to some disagreement about when it was written exactly. Some biographers think it was drafted before he met her and that he later revisited it for her, while others think that he wrote it after the pair were informally engaged. This sonnet explores Keats's yearning for the physical proximity that he enjoys with his lover to last forever, although it is not addressed to her directly. In the poem, the speaker instead addresses a bright star, very probably the pole star, also known as Polaris or the North Star. Because the Earth's axis points almost directly to the pole star, it appears not to move, while other stars, due to their positioning, appear to trace arcs of movement across the night sky. Because of its fixed position, you can always use this star to find north, and it has come to symbolise constancy. Keats thus expresses his wish to be as steadfast, or as fixed or immovable as it is, so that he can stay with his head on his lover's breast for eternity. He then goes on to spend a significant proportion of the sonnet very eloquently explaining the ways in which he has no desire for the star's other qualities, as all it can do is watch silently from afar, unable to enjoy the physical intimacy that only mortal beings can. The poem's imagery focuses on natural beauty. Keats, along with his contemporaries Percy Bysshe Shelley and George Gordon Byron, was a second-generation Romantic poet. He believed in the power and beauty of nature, and that contemplation of it was fundamental to reach truth. He also believed that the perception of nature was achieved through all of the senses, not only through its sights, but through its sounds, its textures, its perfumes, and its shapes, and he appeals to a number of the senses in this poem. The poem is written in the form of an untitled Shakespearean sonnet. It comprises 14 lines written in iambic pentameter, didum, 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 didum. Although Keats does not stay within the strict confines of this base metre, substituting spondies, dum-dum, trochees, dum-dee, and pyrrhic feet, diddy, in places for the conventional iambs. The 14 lines are divided into 3 quatrains of 4 lines each, and a rhyming couplet, with a rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Shakespearean sonnets usually have a volta, which is Italian for turn, either after the second quatrain at line 9 or after the third quatrain at line 13. The volta signals a change, either in tone, argument, or thematic focus. In this sonnet, Keats places the volta after the second quatrain at line 9. The first 2 quatrains before the volta focus on the other qualities of the star that he does not want, such as its silent isolation and remoteness, the coldness of which is highlighted by the poet's references to moving waters and soft fallen snow, while the rest of the poem focuses on how the star's steadfastness, in combination with Keats's own human characteristics of being able to feel and hear when in close physical proximity to another person, the references to which, giving this second part of the poem a feeling of warmth, would allow him to enjoy the moment forever. The sonnet is punctuated as one single sentence, using coordinating conjunctions such as and, or, and yet, to create a poem which is almost dreamy and trance-like in its tone. Keats employs dense sound patterning techniques such as alliteration and consonants of soft l, unvoiced f, and sibilant s sounds to create a poem of lyrical beauty. These dominant consonantal sounds are the same as those we find in the word mellifluous, which means sweet sounding, literally flowing as if with honey. These communicate this same sweet sounding tone or euphony, which enhances the beauty, sensuousness and sweetness of the moment that Keats is trying to convey. In fact, as we can see, this mellifluous consonance pervades the entire poem. Keats uses words which form a semantic field of religion, such as eremite, priest-like, pure, and ablution, and constancy, such as steadfast, eternal, forever, still, and unchangeable, in conjunction with the use of the present participles watching and gazing, which also communicate a sense of continuity. The poem starts, "Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art." Keats personifies the star by apostrophizing it. An apostrophe is a literary device in which the poet addresses an absent person, an abstract idea, or a thing. He speaks to the star, using the familiar and intimate thou form of you, as though it has human qualities. Would I were is another way of saying I wish I were. So here he is expressing his desire, through a simile, to be as immovable or firmly fixed in place as the star. The rhythm in this first line is somewhat open to interpretation and lends itself to being read with more than one potential stress pattern. In the first foot, Keats substitutes a spondy, dum-dum, for the conventional I am, to give the words bright and star equal emphasis. And the second and third feet can either be read as a trochee, dum-dee, and a spondy, dum-dum, with a stress on the words would and were, i.e. would I were stead, to emphasise the depth of his desire, or as the expected I ams, didum, with the stress on the word I, i.e. would I were stead, to emphasise his sense of envy. Likewise, the adjective steadfast, which is split over the third and fourth feet, can either be read with two stress syllables, creating a trochee in the fourth foot, or with a falling stress on the second syllable, thus maintaining the iambic rhythm. The uncertainty of this stress patterning perhaps reflects his own sense of lacking the capacity to be constant. However this line is read, though, his melancholic longing to be something that he is not is clear. The dash at the end of the first line signals a change of direction. Rather than expand on how this steadfastness would manifest in his life, he instead turns his attention to the other qualities that the star possesses that he does not covet. He does not envy its being in lone splendour hung aloft the night. Although it is beautiful and magnificent, communicated by the word splendour, it is lone or isolated in its remote position hung aloft or high overhead the night. All it can do is passively watch with eternal lids apart. The use of the present participle watching in conjunction with the adjective eternal suggests its enduring and vigilant presence as it never closes its metaphorical eyes. Instead, it is like nature's patient, sleepless eremite. The word eremite is interchangeable with the word hermit, and in this simile, Keats alludes to the common practice of Christians in Egypt in the 3rd century to go into the desert to live a solitary and disciplined life of religious contemplation and self-denial. He appears to be suggesting that, like a hermit, the star is denied human warmth, companionship and physical intimacy, and he is not jealous of that. He builds upon this feeling of chasteness in the second quatrain, as he contends that the star can only watch the moving waters at their priest-like task of pure ablution round earth's human shores. The phrase moving waters refers to the tides, another image relating to time and eternity, and the word ablution to the ritual washing of a person's body, such as the face, hands and feet, intended as a form of purification before prayer. Although the earth is also human in Keats's imagery, there is no physical connection between it and the star. The poet continues, or gazing on the new soft fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors. The coordinating conjunction or suggests that the star has a choice over what it does, but the use of the present participle gazing, which is only a synonym for watching, indicates that it is effectively trapped, as none of the other four senses are available to it. This is further heightened by Keats's use of the adjective soft fallen to describe the snow, appealing not only to the sense of hearing, but also to the sense of touch, its auditory and tactile natures both out of reach of the star. A mask is something that hides that which is beneath it, and yet the star is powerless to remove it and see beneath the surface. The undulation inherent in the shapes of the mask, the mountains and the moors, highlighted by the alliteration of the sound, foreshadow the female curves of his lover, whom he introduces after the volta, and the soft fallen mask of snow may be an oblique reference to the whiteness of the sheet which covers her sleeping form. Line 8 finishes with another dash, indicating that this section is over. Indeed, the tone of the sonnet shifts radically at the volta located at the beginning of the third quatrain. This is introduced by the quietly emphatic interjection no, separated from the rest of the line by another dash. He reiterates that it is only the star's steadfast and unchangeable nature that he desires, his sincerity and depth of feeling communicated by the repetition of the adverb still, and the substitution of two spondees, dum-dum, dum-dum, in the second and third feet, which give the line a preponderance of stressed syllables. He wants to stay for ever with his head pillowed upon my fair love's ripening breast. The phrase my fair love's ripening breast alludes to her youth, as she is still in the process of growing and maturing, and is perhaps an indication that his love for her is pure. The sense of movement inherent in this image is picked up in the next line as he desires to feel forever its soft fall and swell, as she breathes in and out in her sleep. The consonants of the l sound at the end of fall and swell helping to evoke this rhythm. The way in which he describes her body and her breathing echoes the rise and fall evoked by the moving waters of the tides which wash the earth, and the undulation of the mountain and the moors of the second quatrain. This link is further enhanced by the polyptotonic repetition of soft fallen and soft fall. The difference, however, is that while the star can do is watch, he can feel these movements as his own head rises and falls in time with her breathing. While the star is patient, sleepless, he would also be awake forever, but this sleeplessness would be a sweet unrest, the oxymoron indicating the way in which the pleasure would outweigh any pain that sleeplessness would cause. The final rhyming couplet focuses on the fact that he would be able still to hear her tender taken breath and so live ever. The repetition of the adverb still is quietly emphatic as he continues to yearn for the impossible, to live in the moment forever and so achieve immortality. The caesura in the final line, indicated by another dash, separates his fantasizing about listening to her breathing, the joy which he takes from this communicated by the alliterative tender taken, with the reality. If he can't have this, and he knows that immortality is impossible, the only alternative is to swoon or faint to death. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.